In the American South, there is a saying, "To kill a mockingbird is a sin," because the mockingbird has a beautiful song. It pours out melodies that enchant the human heart, and it never destroys fruit or crops, it only sings for us. To kill such a bird is a sin, and to make a mockingbird die beneath the gun barrel of prejudice, bias, and narrow judgment, that too is a sin. In our own lives, there are so many mockingbirds. In the world we live in, because of differences in geography, gender, profession, interests, and because of habits of thinking and prejudices that exist everywhere, there are mockingbirds all around us. Like the classmates who are bullied at school, the colleagues who are isolated at work, the kind people who help others and are accused of having selfish motives. Somewhere, people from the provinces, from rural areas, many people in the LGBT community are still being worn down beneath the biased gaze of a world full of indifferent and numb human beings. In many families, the wife must behave this way or that way, and children are not allowed to judge adults. And even you yourself, how many times have you been hurt because of other people's prejudice and narrowness? The classic novel To Kill a Mockingbird begins right from its title in telling readers a profound truth. You never really know a person until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. In the story, the main character and narrator is a little girl named Scout, who lives with her brother Jem and their father Atticus. The author chose the point of view of a child because she wanted us to understand that all the distortions in this life must begin to change with education. And the highest form of education for all of us and for our children is to know how to respect difference. And for adults, the foremost discipline in self-cultivation is to learn how to manage the prejudices within themselves. Hello everyone, welcome to ABC Library, a channel that shares knowledge and encourages holistic self-development through good books. This week, I would like to share with you a classic work by the American writer Harper Lee. It has been translated into 40 languages, won the Pulitzer Prize, and had a profound influence around the world. Obama once publicly mentioned 2 books he gave to his daughters. One of them was this novel. Please listen to ABC Library's reflection on To Kill a Mockingbird, entitled Walk in Other People's Shoes. Have you ever killed a mockingbird? An evil soul living inside a house. That is what the people of Maycomb say about the strange Radley. The Radley house is always tightly shut, while people in this town close their doors only when winter is bitterly cold or when someone is sick. Radley never comes outside. All the children are terrified of him. Jem even describes him as 6 feet tall, eating raw cats, with a scarred face, yellow rotten teeth, bulging eyes, and drool always running down his chin. But the funny thing is that none of the children has ever actually seen Radley. It is the prejudice of the adults around them that causes the children to unleash their imagination in such a completely subjective way. In that dull summer, the children keep inventing all sorts of games to pass the time, and they repeatedly try to sneak into the yard of the strange Radley in order to lure him outside. Yet what they experience there is nothing like the rumors. The road in front of the Radley house is the only path they can take to school. The children discover that Radley often leaves little gifts for them in the knothole of the tree beside the gate, chewing gum, medals, carved figures. One day, Miss Maudie's house catches fire. Scout and Jem stand watching the townspeople fight the flames. When they get home, they are stunned to realize that a blanket has somehow been draped over Scout's shoulders. On another occasion, when the children secretly sneak onto the Radley property, Jem is discovered by Radley's brother and runs in panic. Unfortunately, his pants get caught on the barbed wire fence, and he has no choice but to leave them behind and run. The next day in the tree hole, those torn pants have been mended and folded neatly. It is Radley who silently performs such warm acts of kindness. No one knows that when he was young, Radley made a mistake and was confined in his house by his family for 10 years. From then on, he grew accustomed to living alone, accustomed to replacing words with an awkward smile instead of speaking in cold, flat tones. Simply because he did not live according to the majority's way of life, Radley was branded as an eccentric by the world. Have you ever thought someone was strange? Have you ever, because of another person's difference from you, felt cold, irritated, angry, resentful, or hateful? A philosopher once said, "Most of us oppose prejudice, but all of us have prejudice. We always think that we ourselves are not narrow-minded toward others. We believe prejudice takes root only in the minds and hearts of stupid or wicked people. And yet in truth, every one of us carries prejudice to some extent." The philosopher Socrates compared human beings to prisoners looking at the world from inside a cave. Their bodies are bound, and the world can only be guessed at from the shadows cast upon the cave wall. They believe forever in what they see there until they step outside the cave and behold the sun, and only then do they realize how partial their earlier thoughts were. And so, when faced with difference, when disagreement arises, when someone thinks, acts, or expresses himself in a way that does not match your own expectations, please remember that you yourself are also living inside a cave, and other people are prisoners just like you. Only when you understand that at any moment you too may carry the murderous intent to kill some mockingbird will you truly begin to test your own character. Only when you do not judge too easily will you recognize the narrowness of your own thinking and begin to respect difference. One of the great thinkers of classical German philosophy once said, "I respect every independent mind, although there are some I do not actually approve of." To understand others is a kind of compassion, and to manage one's own prejudice is the highest lesson of self-cultivation for every adult. How do we protect the mockingbird beneath the gun barrel of prejudice? The little town of Macomb is suddenly thrown into an uproar by a shocking rape case. A white girl has been violated by a black man, and the townspeople are even more agitated, because the lawyer defending the black defendant is a white lawyer. That lawyer is Atticus, the father of the heroin scout. The neighbors turn on him with criticism. They feel ashamed that he is standing on the side of a black man. Even his own daughter is angry with him. Why should he help a black man? But he only gently reminds his daughter that she must never use the word nigger for black people. It is an ugly and cruel word. In truth, Atticus knows very well that in a place where racial discrimination has sunk its roots so deeply, his chance of winning the case is nearly zero. But he believes that if he does not do this, he will have no right to teach his children. The deepest part of his conscience leaves him no hesitation. It compels him to try his utmost. Even if the whole world runs against me, I still want to live true to who I am. For him, there is one thing that can never follow the crowd. That thing is conscience. Throughout the course of the trial, Atticus is mocked everywhere by white people. The accuser in the case is Bob Ewell, the father of the girl who claims she was raped. Later, he gathers a group of white men and plots to sneak into the jail and attack Tom. When he learns of it, Atticus immediately goes to the jail and sits alone in front of it to protect Tom. Even in the face of possible violence, he never loses his temper and remains calm despite his children's fear. Their classmates mock them, saying, "Your father loves niggers," which makes them furious. But Atticus calmly tells his children, "You may hear all kinds of ugly things at school, but just do one thing for me. Hold your head high and keep your fists down. No matter what people say to you, don't get angry. Try to fight with your mind. When the majority thinks they are right, and you are wrong, of course they have the right to think so, and they too deserve full respect. But before you can live in harmony with others, you must first live in harmony with yourself." One wonders what precious thing that black man could possibly have given Atticus to make him protect him so stubbornly and risk himself so fully. In truth, that black man gave Atticus nothing precious at all. His name is Tom, and he is a kind, humble man who often helps the nearby white Ewell family whenever they need it. Their eldest daughter, Myella, 19 years old, is abused by her father and therefore lives withdrawn, cut off from the outside world for a long time. So when she encounters Tom, she falls in love with him. One day, she uses the excuse of asking him to fix a door and takes the opportunity to lure him into kissing her. Tom panics and pushes her away. As he runs out, he collides with her drunken father. Ewell beats Myella and believes that his daughter is destroying the family's honor by associating with a black man. Afraid of public disgrace if the matter comes out, he threatens his daughter into accusing Tom of rape and claiming that he inflicted the injuries on her face. On the day of the trial, despite the inconsistencies in the testimony, and despite the obvious truth that Tom, with one crippled arm, could not possibly have caused those injuries, the all-white jury still pronounces Tom guilty simply because of racial prejudice against Black people. Atticus fights to the end, and still, he cannot win. In the end, Tom loses faith in the court altogether. He tries to escape from prison and is shot dead. It is a tragic ending, and when this novel was published, many readers raised opposing views against it. Why could Tom not win the trial? Does that not suggest that white people will always feel superior and always discriminate against Black people? But we need to understand the painful truth that at that moment in time, the prejudice in people's hearts was piled up like a mountain, and no matter how hard one tried, it was terribly difficult to break it apart. Atticus alone protects Tom against those prejudices. This symbolizes the faint voice raised against society's narrowness. But no matter how faint that voice may be, it still must be spoken. Just as Atticus tells his daughter when she is troubled by the final verdict of the court, someone on that jury recognized that Tom was innocent, and that is progress. No matter how fragile the light of hope may be, no matter how ignorance is buried deep in the habitual thinking of people, we still have to fight to the end, to protect others from prejudice, and to protect ourselves from the narrow judgments of those around us. Though Tom is gone, Atticus's conscience, courage, and integrity cause more and more white people to support him, and Black people to love and admire him deeply. And you will come to realize that in order to save ourselves and other mockingbirds from such narrowness, we must first know how to manage the prejudices within ourselves. No matter how noisy the outside world may be, you must learn to turn a blind eye to the prejudices of others toward you. In this world, the less understanding people have, the more they like to criticize others, because their thinking has long grown rigid, and they cannot tolerate even the slightest difference. The higher a person's awareness, the more willing that person becomes to be tolerant of difference. And only when you respect difference, respecting other people's opinions, choices, and desires, can you possess a steadfast heart that is not shaken by the prejudices around you. Then your inner life will become calm like a river, capable of containing all differences. You will no longer be controlled by other people's words and actions, nor will a single prejudiced remark be enough to make you angry, upset, sorrowful, or wounded. Learn to take lightly someone else's contempt and insult, so that you can devote more energy to your own purpose. As the philosopher Junzi once said, "The noble man of talent can tolerate the weak, the wise can tolerate the foolish, the well-educated can tolerate the shallow, and the pure-hearted can tolerate those whose hearts are complicated." So please remember this: only by respecting and accepting difference can we live well in this world full of prejudice. And the second thing we need to do is to begin with education. Psychologists have demonstrated that prejudice is a thought pattern hidden deep inside our minds, formed and shaped by family, relatives, school, and the environment in which we live. In the book The Diamond Cutter, the author points out that in truth, definitions of a person, a thing, or an object are often living and neutral. They do not possess fixed meaning in themselves, but people constantly assign different qualities to them. It is human beings' subjective judgment that determines whether something is seen as good or bad. There is a story like this. A white mother and her child hail a taxi driven by an African man. The little child asks, "Mom, why does the driver have skin that's different from ours?" The mother smiles and answers, "God created people in different colors to make the world colorful." The black driver is deeply moved by hearing this. When they arrive, he firmly refuses to take the fare and says with emotion, "When I was little, I once asked my mother the same question, but my mother told me that we were black, and that our fate was lowly. If my mother had answered me the way you did, I might have become a different person today. That is the effect education has on a human being. In the simplest sense, it determines how a person sees things, and more broadly, it determines the shifting course of an entire life. Like the father Atticus in this story, he calmly and patiently educates his children, helping them gradually strip away the colors and sounds of prejudice from what they have seen and heard so that they can begin to understand. Difference is not what is frightening in this world. What is frightening is the narrowness and arrogance in human thought. In the three-body problem, there is a very famous line. Ignorance is not the greatest obstacle to survival. Arrogance is. You need to understand that deep within every prejudiced thought, there may very well be a hidden belief that I am superior to others, that white people are superior to black people, that city people have the right to mock the speech of those from the provinces, that members of the LGBT community are somehow not truly human. Then is it they who are distorted? Or is it simply that you are looking at them through a crack in the door? And finally, if we are to lower the gun, we must not let it remain aimed at innocent mockingbirds. Please remember the teaching of Atticus the father. Reading is like breathing. Even if you don't feel like it, you still must do it. To recognize one's own narrowness and to change entrenched habits of thought, reading is one of the most effective ways. Reading is something so simple, and yet so many people today cannot do it or sustain it. So please remember this. When you cannot change your origin or your living conditions, when you cannot change other people, then the only way to overcome the prejudices of the age is to read. The philosopher Schopenhauer once said, "What hinders people from discovering the truth is not the glittering appearance of things, nor human deficiency in reasoning, but prejudice the things we have accumulated beforehand." The most precious lesson this novel offers all of us is the acceptance of one truth. Both you and I, to some extent, carry prejudice within us. Both you and I have at times been, are now, and will still be mockingbirds. And both you and I may also become the one who raises the gun to kill another mockingbird. But now is the time for us to be brave, and with the beautiful conscience that originally belongs to us, to protect the mockingbirds. Read more, learn more, broaden your vision, so that you may be ready to accept difference with a peaceful soul. When your inner life is full and your thinking is wide, the people you cannot stand and the things that displease you will gradually become fewer and fewer. Thank you for listening. If you found this video helpful, please share it with those who need it. And do not forget to read and reflect on this classic novel for yourself, so that you may draw out your own understanding and lessons from it. And do not forget to support ABC Library with a like, hit the follow button, and turn on the notification bell so you can watch my newest weekly videos. Once again, my sincere thanks to all of you. See you again in the next videos.